Welcome to Books for the Back Porch. It is officially fall, which means it is officially Halloween season, and what better way to celebrate Halloween season's kicking off than to list my top 10 favorite horror books of all time. These 10 books are guaranteed to scare you, guaranteed to keep you on the edge of your seat, and guaranteed to keep you up late at night reading and thinking about what you just read. A couple of ground rules off the bat. Number one, an author's only on this list once. Otherwise, you would see some repeat authors, and I really wanted to be able to showcase a wide variety of authors, a wide variety of works, and I'm sure you would be bored if I just had Paul Tremblay and Stephen Graham Jones showing up on this book after book after book. So, one book for everybody. Number two, no short story collections. I think horror actually thrives in a short story collection, whether it be an anthology of a lot of different writers or just one writer's all of their short story collections. But it's really hard to compare short stories to novels at the same time. A short story collection might have one or two stories that don't quite hit for you, and that might make you kind of knock it down compared to a novel that you thought was, a brilliant 5-star read. And trying to bounce between that makes it really difficult. But I absolutely love horror short fiction, and you will be seeing a list later on this Halloween season of my top 10 favorite short stories that you definitely need to check out. So, without further ado, let's dive into it. First up is the first book in a trilogy that really sets the mood for just Halloween and gets you into that fall feel. It is Clown in the Cornfield by Adam Cesare. Clown in the Cornfield just nails that feeling that you're looking for when it becomes October and you just want to immerse yourself in Halloween. This is technically a YA novel, and I think it's considered YA because it deals with high schoolers, but trust me when I tell you that what happens in this book is anything but YA. It is the story of a teenager and her father moving into a small town and quickly realizing that the small town isn't as great and idyllic as they thought it was. And there is quickly a growing rift between the teenagers and the adults of the town, the adults wanting to kind of go back to when things were better when they were younger, and teenagers trying to kind of push things forward. And suddenly there is a clown popping up in the cornfields and murdering the teenagers. And this book is violent. The kills in this are incredible. This book is an 80s slasher in book form. Adam Cesare set out in this book to just thrill you, scare you, and make you feel like you are living in Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or any of those other classic 80s slashers. And he nails it with the feel of this book and is why it's the number 10 best horror novel of all time. Number 9 is the classic that everybody always has on a list for good reason. It is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This book is incredible. It is a classic for a reason. Yeah, it's written well over 100 years ago. No, it doesn't read that way. It is told in the epistolary, there we go. I'll get it. This book is incredible. It oozes tension. It oozes feeling and atmosphere. You are constantly in these different characters' mindsets in their heads, understanding what's going on. You feel their terror rising. It is incredible. The writing is off the charts amazing. There is a reason why this has just spun off and created so many vampire fiction stories after this, because the groundwork that he lays here is incredible. Not only that, the opening is perhaps the most chilling, atmospheric opening of any book I've ever read. You know this book because of the vampires, you know this because of Count Dracula himself, but that beginning ride to the castle is so tense, it's so creepy. You are scared to turn the page, and you're not even 10 pages into this book. It's incredible. If you haven't read this, you definitely need to check it out. Number 8 might just be the most messed up, most bizarre book I've ever read. And I'm talking any genre. Nothing is as out there as this. And speaking of any genre, this is kind of a mashup of two genres. This is a horror book through and through, but it is told very much in a noir style. I'm talking Last Days by Brian Evenson. This book is incredible in just how much it messes with your mind and how much it bores itself into your brain and won't let go. It's the story of a retired detective trying to infiltrate an amputee cult, and the only way in is to join it, and he is quickly losing parts of his body, and it is just the most messed up story you will ever read. It is gruesome. It is disturbing. And the way that he tells it, he's using that kind of that noir style of writing. So everything is just so matter of fact. And just seeing this person literally have their body chopped off and the people around him having their body parts chopped off, while also just like being rather like blasé about it, rather just like, this is what's happening, and you're stuck in his head as it's happening. It is disturbing. It is freaky. It is the most messed up book you will ever read. Number 7 is the book that cemented Stephen Graham Jones as one of my favorite horror authors. I had read a bunch of him before this, but this is the one that really just had him pull it all together and not only have amazing writing, but a plot that scared you and thrilled you. I'm talking The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. It's the story of 4 teenagers who go hunting on some hallowed ground when they're not supposed to, and 10 years later, a spirit is out for vengeance against them. And this has Stephen Graham Jones's amazing writing style. Some people love it. I can't get enough of it. I will tell you, it is divisive. Some people absolutely hate his writing style because his writing style is very oral tradition heavy. He is writing as if he is literally speaking to you. And he will jump from, kind of like a stream of consciousness in someone's head, and then kind of into some plot stuff, and then kind of back into some stream of consciousness. And it takes a second or two to kind of get used to that. But once you're in that, once you understand how he writes, it is beautiful. It is evocative. It is moving. And then once he gets you where he wants you to be, once he's got you feeling that and getting into that flow, he will just come out of left field and punch you right in the gut with something horrific, something terrifying, and it just makes it all that much better. This is an incredible story of vengeance, and if you aren't reading Stephen Graham Jones, you should really be checking him out. Much like Last Days, number 6 on this list is a book that takes 2 genres and melds them together, and for my money, nobody does it better than this book. It is The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. This book reminds me of a lot of Joe Lansdale, and not in the plot, but in Iglesias' writing style. Because Iglesias is able to take 2 genres and mix them well together. And a lot of times when you do a book that covers a lot of different genres in one, it's kind of like, you got your crime fiction here, and then you have kind of a horror section, and then maybe you have historical fiction here, and you kind of bounce between the 3. But Joe Lansdale is able to mix them all well together, so you don't feel like you're bouncing from section to section, but they're all just part of the same story. And Iglesias absolutely nails that with The Devil Takes You Home. This book doesn't shift from point to point. It's just the way the story flows, and you are just getting horrific things, and you're getting the crime that's happening at the same time, and they meld so well together. At the heart of the story, we follow a man. He is approached to become a hitman, and they decide to take out some powerful drug dealers, and if they succeed, he can get $200,000, and all of his money problems will be fixed, and he'll be able to get his daughter the treatment that she needs. And so we follow him and the 2 other people on the journey with him in this long descent to hell. They bounce from Texas to Mexico, all with their different own motives for why they're doing this job. But there's one thing that is clear from the get-go. Even if he succeeds, he's not going to be the same man he was before he took this job. I'm excited to see where he continues with his career. He has already been off to such a hot start, but for my money, it's going to be really hard to top The Devil Takes You Home. Number 5, the book that got me back into horror after so many years away. It is The Cabin at the End of the World by by Paul Tremblay. I am a sucker for a home invasion movie, but I hadn't had great luck finding a home invasion novel until I read The Cabin at the End of the World. This book is incredible. You've heard of unreliable narrators. This is an unreliable plot. It is amazing what Tremblay can do. In it, we follow a young family and they vacation in a cabin out in the remote wilderness of New Hampshire when 4 people arrive and demand to enter into their cabin and then ultimately demand a sacrifice. They tell them the family needs to sacrifice one of the 3 of them in order to stop the end of the world. And at first, the family think that they're joking, and then they quickly find out that they are deadly serious. And it begins this kind of like cat and mouse toying back and forth of do they believe them or not? It is abundantly clear that the 4 strangers 100% believe this to be true. And the family laughs this off and thinks it's some big joke and just thinks that they're just deranged killers. Until they start turning on the news and seeing different events happening in the world that could be coincidence and could be truth. But I'll leave it at that. Tremblay uses all of these pages though to get under your skin and to make you just be absolutely terrified to turn that next page. It is amazing how he just keeps that home invasion feeling through all of these pages. There's never a dull moment. There is never a time where you're like, okay, let's get on with it. And the way that he ends this, in my eyes, is absolutely magnificent, that very few authors could pull off an ending like this and make it as successful as he did. And Tremblay shows that he's an absolute master of his craft with this. Next, we have the second vampire novel on this list, but not the last. And for a long time, this was my favorite horror novel, and it wasn't until the past 5 or so years that it finally got dethroned. It is The Passage by Justin Cronin. This novel is epic. It's awe-inspiring what he has done, and it is just absolutely mesmerizing. It's so amazing that I've actually been scared to move on to the rest of this series because I don't want to be let down by how incredible this one was. It takes place in the near future where the government is testing some sort of super serum on death row inmates and what seems to be trying to kind of like extend the life cycle. And in doing this, they use some DNA from a Bolivian bat, and as you can expect with any sort of vampire story, anything from a bat's not going to work out well. Now we get to the divisive part of this book. There is then a big time jump. We jump 90 to 100 years into the future. That's where a lot of people get lost with this novel, because the first half is set in the near future and you're kind of dealing with that aspect and some of the characters there. And then we jump 100 years in and it's all brand new characters and a whole brand new setting, and it loses a lot of people. Trust me, stick with it. Wrap your head around the idea that you're going to lose those characters' story for a long time and jump on with getting to learn some new characters in a new setting, because it is incredible. We jump forward that 100 years and vampires have taken over the entire earth, presumably. We are set in Southern California as this one colony is trying to survive. And you learn kind of like the day-to-day machinations of what they do, how they've managed to survive as the last throes of humanity is coming together to fight this battle and to win. It is, like I said, it is epic. It is awe-inspiring. It is, like I said, it was my favorite horror novel for so long. And despite there being horrific end-of-the-world apocalyptic things, there's still a lot of hope in this, and there's a lot of heart in this. And he says a lot about humanity and where humanity could go and how humanity can save itself with this. Do yourself a favor, check this out, get on board with the time jump, and you will have yourself one hell of an epic ride. Whew, we have made it to the top 3. I'll tell you guys, when I was making this list, trying to find a slot for one of these books to go into, which one is book 3, which book is book 2, and which one is number 1, was incredibly difficult. All of these books are incredible. All of them are amazing. All of them will thrill you and scare you like no other book. Book 3 is the greatest cosmic horror story I have ever read. Think, what if H.P. Lovecraft could not be racist and could actually write well and had some literary talent, let alone John Langan having an amazing literary talent. Of course, I'm talking about his masterpiece, The Fisherman by John Langan. This book is unbelievable in its scope. It is unbelievable how well written this is. Horror is often looked at as a genre where it is only about the plot. It is only about cheap thrills, scare them, and get out. And the writing takes a backseat. That is not the case with The Fisherman. What blew me away so much with The Fisherman is how beautifully written it is, how amazingly well written it is. This isn't just about a terrifying plot. It is just the language, the writing, the prose is unbelievable. It can't be beaten. And what I absolutely loved about this is it's a story within a story. We follow a man, he has his wife pass away unexpectedly, and it's about him dealing with this grief of his loss of his wife. He befriends another person there who's also kind of been through the loss of a wife, the loss of a spouse, and they start bonding over that grief. In typical man fashion, they don't spend a lot of time talking about it, but they bond over fishing. And so they'll go on these fishing trips and just not really talk, but be in each other's company. And on one of these trips, they hear the story of this place that is supposed to have some of the best fishing in the world. And it's their desire to find that place and find out what they can catch. And the story within the story is how this place came to be. And I don't want to spoil it from there, but this is cosmic horror at its absolute best. This is surreal. This is tackling things like grief and loss in such a beautiful way and in such an absolutely horrific way. If you haven't read The Fisherman, you need to stop everything you're doing, go out, buy this, and read this. You will be blown away, not only by the plot, but blown away by how amazingly well written horror can be. Number 2 is the greatest vampire story ever told. It is In the Valley of the Sun by Andy Davidson. This was a book that I wasn't originally expecting a whole lot out of when I read it. I love vampires. I will always love a good vampire story, but there are a lot of misses within the hits that there are. And when I first read this, I was expecting, to enjoy it, but I wasn't expecting to be blown away by this. And boy, did this book blow me away. It is a neo-Western vampire story that takes place in the 80s in Texas. We follow a man named Travis who spends his nights looking for women at honky-tonks, doing unsavory things with them, until one night he drinks too much, and when he wakes up the next day, he's not feeling so good. And he can't really remember what happened the night before, but there's a lot of blood in his room, and he's not really sure whose it is or what happened. And Travis, he lives in the camper in the back of his truck, and he has just kind of been like driving around, going from place to place. He ends up kind of like setting up shop outside of a rundown hotel that is run by a woman and her young boy, and he helps them do some tasks around the place, cleaning it up. But he quickly realizes that whenever he's out in the daylight, he's getting sick and he's not feeling well. And he starts covering himself up more and more to kind of keep that sunlight off of his skin. All the while, there is a police officer who is hunting him down for some of his past sins. And we follow this story between the two of them, Travis and this officer, until we have this epic conclusion between him. And what blew me away with this is how well this took kind of the Western feel and mixed it in with that horror genre. Davidson's writing really blew me away with this one. The way that he was able to just evoke so much emotion, the way he was able to evoke just the scenery. You know, Texas comes alive in this book. When you're reading this book, you feel like you are in that hot sun. There's dirt in your mouth, you know, everything's gritty, everything's sweltering, and Davidson really nails that feeling as you read this book. It is the scariest vampires you will ever read, and it is, pound for pound, the best vampire book that you will ever read. Okay, we've made it to number 1. And if you have seen my previous video on the 10 best books of all time, then you already know what it is. It is The Ruins by Scott Smith. And why is The Ruins by Scott Smith the best horror book of all time? It is the tensest, scariest, creepiest book I have ever read. I have not looked at plants the same since I've read this. I originally read this, I think, in 2007, maybe it was 2008, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. Every summer, whenever I start seeing poinsettias around, whenever I start seeing any sort of creepy vines with red flowers or red berries on it, I am immediately creeped out and I'm immediately transported back to this book. The Ruins is the story of 4 friends who go to Mexico on college break and decide to have some fun down there. And they come across a Mexican temple that they decide, let's climb up and see what happens. And they quickly find out why you shouldn't be messing with things that you don't understand. This book is so hopeless. This book makes you feel what the characters feel. They quickly come to find out that these ruins are haunted. And there's these creeping vines that appear to be sentient. And as the teens mess around on this temple, the vines mess back. And it is some of the grossest body horror you will ever read. It is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely tense. It is so hopeless. You do not enjoy these teenagers, and you're not supposed to, because he mimics with his writing the tension and the feeling and the fear that they have. And that's what makes reading so incredible, is that just the written word can make it feel as if you are on top of these ancient ruins and that you are there with your friends and that there's no chance at survival for you. It's claustrophobic, and as somebody who suffers from claustrophobia, let me tell you, you feel it in this book. It is suffocating. It is absolutely terrifying. And The Ruins by Scott Smith is easily the greatest horror novel ever written. So there you have it, the absolute guaranteed 10 greatest horror novels of all time. Let me know in the comments what books you've read, or if you're more of the adversarial type, let me know what books you think I missed that should have been on this list. If you've enjoyed it, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel. I've got more plans for some horror-themed books for the next couple of weeks. And until next time, keep your porch light on.